Imagine spending years of your life being invisible, not just ignored, but ridiculed, mocked, and treated like you were nothing more than the shadow in the corner of the classroom. That was my life for as long as I can remember. But here's the part they never saw coming: when the very same people who laughed at me, who crushed my confidence, ended up begging for my help. And when that moment arrived, I didn't just forgive. I made sure they never forgot the lesson I taught them. If you've ever been underestimated, ignored, or treated like you didn't matter, this story will hit home for you. So, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and get ready, because this is one of the most satisfying revenge stories you'll ever hear. From the very beginning, I was that quiet kid, the one who never raised his hand in class, who avoided eye contact in the hallways, and who sat at the back of the cafeteria, pretending to be busy with his lunch tray. My silence wasn't because I didn't want friends, it was because every attempt I made at reaching out was crushed before it could bloom. Kids are brutally honest, and sometimes brutally cruel. While some children got teased for their clothes or their accents, I was different. I was teased for simply existing. I was the nobody, the easy target. My classmates didn't just ignore me, they actively reminded me I didn't belong. I still remember the first time it really hit me. 3rd grade. We had to pair up for a group project. Everyone around me quickly found partners. Laughter filled the room as people called out to their friends. And me, I just sat there, clutching my notebook, praying someone would notice. No one did. The teacher finally paired me with a group that didn't even want me. They called me dead weight to my face. It stung. That was the day I realized I wasn't just unseen, I was unwanted. By middle school, the ridicule turned sharper. Kids had discovered the power of public humiliation, and I became their favorite victim. Walking through the hallways meant bracing myself for insults muttered under breaths or shouted out loud, just to make others laugh. Loser, mute, why are you even here? They'd knock my books out of my hands, kick my backpack down the hall, or shove me against lockers just to see me stumble. The teachers, they saw bits and pieces, but never the whole story. I became so good at faking a smile and muttering, "I'm fine," that no one dug deeper. What broke me most wasn't the bullying itself, it was the isolation. No birthday invitations, no sleepovers, no one saving me a seat at lunch. It was as if the world had collectively decided I didn't exist. By high school, I thought maybe things would change. Maybe people would mature. But no, the cruelty just became more strategic. Now it wasn't just random insults, it was carefully designed humiliation. During group presentations, no one let me speak. In sports, I was always the last pick, often shoved into a position where I couldn't mess things up because I was too weak to matter. There was this one guy in particular, let's call him Mark. He was the ringleader, the charismatic, loud, confident type who everyone seemed to adore. Teachers praised him, girls liked him, and guys wanted to be like him. And me, I was his favorite punchline. Careful. Don't let him touch the project, he might curse it with failure. Don't sit next to him, he's contagious with loser vibes. Each word chipped away at me. Each laugh from the crowd confirmed what I already felt. I was invisible unless I was being ridiculed. But Mark didn't just stop at insults. He orchestrated pranks. One time, he convinced the class that it would be hilarious to forget about me during a group photo for the yearbook. The photographer asked, "Is everyone here?" Mark smirked and said, "Yeah, everyone important is," and nobody corrected him. Nobody asked where I was. That year, when the yearbook came out, there it was, our class photo, and I was missing, as if I'd never been part of that class. That image burned itself into my memory. I was erased from history. Do you know what it feels like to look in the mirror and question if you even matter? To wonder if maybe they were right, maybe you really are nothing. Every night I'd sit in my room, replaying the moments of humiliation, the laughter echoing in my head. My chest would tighten, my throat would burn, but no tears came out anymore. I'd already cried myself dry, and the worst part, I didn't even hate them. I hated myself for not being stronger, for not fighting back, for not standing tall. I hated the silence that clung to me like a curse. But somewhere in that storm of self-loathing, a tiny spark ignited. It was faint at first, a whisper, but it grew louder with time. Just wait. One day, they'll see. One day, you won't just matter, you'll make them regret ever doubting you. Graduation day came and went, and I left high school with no friends, no fond memories, nothing to hold on to. But what I carried with me was a promise, a silent vow that one day, I would rise so high that the same people who ignored me would choke on their regret. College was my escape. A new city, a new beginning. Nobody knew me as the loser. For the first time, I had the chance to reinvent myself. I buried myself in studies, spending nights in the library, weekends attending workshops, and summers interning wherever I could. While others partied, I was busy building myself. My social life was still empty. But this time, it didn't hurt. I had a mission. Each late-night study session, each new skill I mastered, was fuel for the fire inside me. I wasn't just learning for a degree. I was sharpening my weapons for the day I'd finally face my demons. And deep down, I knew. Karma had a way of circling back. Asterisk, when I stepped into college, I wasn't the same broken kid who had left high school behind. Sure, the scars were there, the humiliation, the loneliness, the pain of being erased. But under those scars, a new determination had begun to grow. I didn't just want to survive anymore. I wanted to thrive. Every time I sat in a lecture hall, every time I opened a textbook, I remembered those faces, the ones that laughed at me, that called me worthless. Their voices became fuel. Where others studied to pass, I studied to dominate. While my classmates were out at parties, clinking glasses and posting photos of their social lives, I was in the library. The dim light of the reading lamp, the soft hum of the air conditioning, and the endless pages of books became my world. But I wasn't just reading, I was absorbing. Technology, business, strategy, communication. I devoured everything I could get my hands on. And I didn't stop at academics. I realized that if I wanted to be unstoppable, I had to build every part of myself. So, I started with the gym. At first, I hated it. My body was weak, my stamina worse. But every drop of sweat, every ache in my muscles reminded me, this pain was different. This pain was progress. Slowly, my body changed. The frail kid who used to hide in oversized hoodies was replaced by someone stronger, someone who could finally look in the mirror without flinching. But I knew muscles alone weren't enough. If I wanted real power, I had to master what had always been my biggest weakness. People. So, I forced myself to join clubs. At first, I barely spoke. My voice trembled, my palms sweated, and my old demons whispered, "They're going to laugh at you again." But this time, I didn't run. I stayed, I listened, and slowly, I learned. I studied not just books but people, their expressions, their tones, their body language. I learned when to speak, when to stay silent, and how to make words carry weight. By junior year, something incredible happened. People actually started looking to me for answers. Me, the boy who had once been invisible. Suddenly, professors praised me. Classmates sought me out for projects, and organizations asked me to lead. By the time I graduated, I had something I never thought possible. Respect. Not just a degree, not just a stronger body, but a reputation. I had landed internships at respected firms. I had published research that got attention, and I had developed connections that stretched farther than I'd ever imagined. Still, the voice inside me never went silent. That old pain whispered, "This isn't the end. They haven't seen you yet. Wait until they do." My first job out of college wasn't glamorous. Entry-level analyst at a mid-sized firm. But I didn't care, because to me, it wasn't just a job, it was a battlefield. I arrived earlier than anyone else. I left later than anyone else. I took projects no one wanted, stayed up nights fixing problems others couldn't solve. And little by little, I began to stand out. My manager noticed. Then his manager noticed. And before I knew it, I wasn't just another new hire, I was the guy people trusted to get things done. But more importantly, I realized something powerful. Respect in the professional world didn't come from being loud, or popular, or funny like it did in school. It came from results. And results. Those I could deliver better than anyone. Year after year, I climbed. Promotions came steadily. My name started circulating beyond my department. I wasn't just growing in the company, I was building a name in the entire industry. And with each step up the ladder, the boy who had once been erased was now carving his name into the world with uncheckable permanence. Still, deep inside, I waited, because I knew, one day, life would bring me face to face with the ghosts of my past. That moment came sooner than I expected. It was during a networking event, one of those formal gatherings where professionals exchanged cards, shook hands, and pretended to care about each other's success. I was standing near the buffet table, listening politely to a colleague, when I heard a laugh. Not just any laugh. That laugh, the one I'd heard echoing through the hallways of high school. I turned, and there he was, Mark, the same smirk, the same confidence. Only this time I noticed something different. The edges of his smile were forced, his suit wasn't tailored, and the sparkle in his eyes seemed desperate. It hit me like a thunderbolt. Life had brought us back together, and this time I wasn't the invisible boy anymore. I didn't approach him that night. No, revenge, I realized, wasn't about rushing. It was about patience, precision. But as I watched him move awkwardly around the room, trying too hard to impress, I knew my moment was coming. The kid who had been erased from the yearbook was about to write his name in a chapter Mark would never forget. Life has a strange way of circling back. Months after that networking event where I had seen Mark again, my company faced an unexpected challenge. A trusted co-worker of mine was fired for misconduct. The seat he left behind wasn't just another chair, it was a coveted role. A role with influence, access, and prestige. Naturally, my boss began searching for a replacement. Dozens of resumes poured in, some impressive, some laughable. I didn't pay much attention until one day, when I was handed a familiar file. The name at the top stopped me cold. Mark. For a moment, I just stared at it. My pulse quickened, my palms tingled. Was this real? Could fate really be this generous? I took a deep breath. I couldn't let my emotions take control. Not yet. Mark didn't know it yet, but the battlefield had shifted. He wasn't the confident predator anymore. He was just another desperate applicant. And me, I was no longer his target. I was the gatekeeper. My boss asked me to sit in on the interviews. It was standard procedure. Nothing unusual. But to me, it was destiny knocking on my door. The day of the interview arrived. I sat across the polished wooden table, my notes in front of me, my pen resting lightly between my fingers. The air was thick with quiet anticipation. And then, the door opened. Mark walked in. For a split second, our eyes met. Recognition flickered. I saw the faintest twitch at the corner of his mouth. A hesitation he tried to mask with his trademark arrogance. He sat down confidently, straightened his tie, and flashed the same smug smile I remembered all too well. But underneath that smile, I saw it. A shadow of uncertainty. Long time no see. His eyes seemed to say long enough for everything to change. Mine replied. My boss started with the basics. Do you have any experience working in independent team environments? Mark leaned back casually. Of course, I'm a manager at Walmart. I run a team. I know the ins and outs of leadership. I can handle myself. I almost smiled. He said it with such pride, but I knew the truth. He wasn't respected. He wasn't admired. He was tolerated. The questions continued. Each time, Mark answered with the same inflated confidence. His resume painted him as a polished professional. But I knew better. Finally, my boss glanced at me. Do you have any questions? This was it. My moment. I leaned forward slightly, my tone calm, professional. Mark, I see some gaps in your work history. Can you explain those? For the first time, his smile faltered. That was a typo. I was working consistently. Just forgot to fill it in properly. I raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Because I remembered differently. He stiffened. My boss glanced between us, curiosity sparking in his eyes. I pressed further. If a computer on the shop floor went down, how would you handle it? Mark smirked. I'd fix it. Duh. And if the memory was completely shot? There's nothing I can't fix. He boasted. His arrogance was showing. Exactly as I planned. Really? I asked, voice sharp but polite. So, you could repair damaged RAM without replacing it? For the first time, his eyes darted nervously. Well, I mean, I'd figure it out. My boss leaned back, amused. He saw what I was doing and he let me continue. It was time. I looked Mark straight in the eye. Calm, steady, unblinking. One last question, I said. What's the purpose of the L cache in a CPU? The silence was deafening. Mark froze. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. His face paled. His confidence shattered. That moment stretched forever. I could almost hear the echoes of his past taunts, him laughing at me when I once asked that very question. The humiliation I had felt years ago, flipped perfectly on its head. Finally, he stammered. I don't know. That was never covered in class. I nodded, professional as ever. Understood. The interview ended shortly after. My boss thanked him, said they'd be in touch. But we both knew the truth. His chances were dead. As soon as Mark left, my boss turned to me. His eyes narrowed. All right. What was that about? So I told him. Not the emotional scars. Not the years of bullying. Just the facts. That Mark wasn't who he claimed to be. That he had a history of job hopping, of arrogance, of failure. That his resume was full of holes. My boss nodded slowly. He trusted me. He believed me. And with that, Mark's application was tossed aside. Revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was clean, surgical. Final. But Mark wasn't done. 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. My wife answered, and before she could even react, Mark shoved his way inside. I was in the living room when I heard his voice. Loud, angry, dripping with entitlement. What the hell happened? He demanded. I stood, calm but firm. Excuse me, I didn't get the job. What did you tell them about me? I folded my arms. Nothing that wasn't true. You did that all on your own. His face twisted with rage. Bullshit. You sabotaged me. You've always been jealous because you know I'd outshine you. I laughed, cold and sharp. Outshine me. You couldn't even answer a basic question about the L cache. You humiliated yourself. The only person who ruined this opportunity was you. His voice rose, desperate now. Fix it. Go back and fix it. Tell them to hire me. I stepped closer, my voice low and steady. No, you don't get to walk into my house, after years of belittling me, and demand I clean up your mess. This, I gestured around us, at my life, my home, my success. This is what happens when you build, when you grow, when you earn. You wouldn't understand that, he sneered. I'm not afraid of you. Or the cops. Good, I said. Because if you don't walk out that door right now, you'll meet them. For a moment, he glared at me, shaking with fury. But then, he turned and stormed out. In the days that followed, I heard from old friends. Mark had been calling everyone, ranting about how I'd ruined his life, but nobody believed him. They knew who I was now, and they knew who he was. His credibility crumbled. His ego cracked. And for the first time, the man who once thrived on making others feel small was the one standing alone, diminished, defeated. Mark had left my house, but the echoes of that encounter lingered in my mind. There's a strange satisfaction in seeing someone who once thrived on your misery finally face the consequences of their actions. And yet, the satisfaction wasn't rooted in cruelty, it was rooted in justice. I sat down, exhaling slowly, feeling the weight of years of pain lift from my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. My wife, who had observed the entire ordeal, placed a hand on my shoulder. You didn't just win, she said softly. You put the past where it belongs behind you. And she was right. Over the next few days, news spread quietly. Friends who had known Mark's true nature nodded knowingly. Others, unaware of the history, slowly pieced together why he hadn't been hired. I didn't have to brag or explain. The truth spoke for itself. Mark tried to salvage his reputation, reaching out to colleagues, old friends, even mutual acquaintances. But the credibility he had relied upon crumbled. People began seeing through his inflated ego and shallow claims. He was no longer the confident bully who had walked through life unchallenged, and that, perhaps more than anything, was the most satisfying part of all. Karma had delivered the lesson not with violence, not with revenge, but with reality. I spent a long time thinking about what happened, not just the interview, or Mark's visit to my house, but the entire arc of my life from the bullied kid in the cafeteria to the professional standing confidently in my home. I realized revenge, true revenge, isn't about spite or malice. It's about proving, to yourself and to the world, that your value isn't dictated by those who tried to diminish you. It's about growth, resilience, and mastery of self. Every insult I endured, every moment of isolation, every night spent questioning my worth, those were the building blocks of the person I became. And the best part, I didn't let the past destroy me. I let it mold me. Looking back, I understand that life doesn't need you to fight every battle for you. Sometimes, the best revenge is living well. Mark had chosen arrogance, deception, and manipulation. I had chosen diligence, learning, and patience. One path led to self-destruction, the other led to empowerment, and the universe, as it often does, mirrored those choices in the most poetic way. I don't carry anger toward Mark anymore. I carry clarity. I carry pride in my journey, in the person I've become, and I carry a lesson for anyone listening. Growth is your greatest weapon. Patience and strategy outweigh brute force. Your worth is defined by your actions, not others' opinions. Even now, when I sit at my desk, looking out over the city, I can smile at the memory, because I know I didn't just survive the bullying. I transcended it, and in doing so, I finally achieved the justice I had been waiting for all those years.